Hello and welcome to today's event featuring Marshall Shore. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence of nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 right here in Arizona, we work to strengthen our communities and we advocate for what matters most to our families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. During the month of March, we will focus on managing debt, maximizing savings, and increasing retirement. AARP can help you make sure your money lives as long as you do by helping you save money, pay down debt, and maximize benefits. We have the resources, expert content, and tools for consumers to manage debt and deal with unexpected expenses. We also have resources to help you plan for retirement and ideas to help increase your short and long-term savings. Visit us at aarp.org/money tools to learn more. Thank you again, and with that, I will turn it over to Marshall.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy you can join us this evening. Oh my gosh, it's been such a fun time kind of looking back. I'll explain what that means in just a moment. But, I want to say hello and welcome to all of you out there watching through a variety of services. Now, Arizona History Happy Hour, we've been doing this. This is our third season we're doing. Oh my gosh, how exciting. And so today is March 23rd of 2023. And it helps if you hit the right button. So today, back in 1926, it was proclaimed that in April 1st would be Greenway Field Day, proclaimed. And so that was a celebration of athletes across Arizona. Eventually, it involved not just famous athletes, but also even starting with elementary school athletes, to really kind of promote activity and to celebrate General John C. Greenway. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about him later on, but also his wife, Isabel Greenway, who served in the House of Representatives as a Democrat from 1933 to 37 and was Arizona's first Congresswoman. I would also like to think that, it recognized Al Wilkinson, who we recently lost at the age of 101. She was one of the softball players as well as a bowler here in Arizona and is, I would say, one of Arizona's foremost women athletes because she is in the Bowling Hall of Fame and the Softball Hall of Fame. So, rest in peace. Now, that first Greenway Field Day was held at the State Fairgrounds back in 1926. Now, get ready to overdose on cuteness because it is National Puppy Day. It's a day where we celebrate those little fur balls that bring so much joy and laughter into our lives. It's also intended to raise awareness of adoption and other ways of selecting a delightful puppy to be in your day. Now, it is also, if dogs aren't your thing, maybe cats are, it is National Cuddly Kitten Day. So, probably you don't want to celebrate the things together. That probably would not be a good idea. But, so much random furball of cuteness. Oh my gosh. Well, it is also National Chip and Dip Day. Now, whether you like your chips cheesy, vegetable pack salsas, cream cheese based, sour cream based, baked. There are so many different dips. Actually, Cool Whip is a dip indeed. I love dipping a cracker into my Cool Whip. But represented in those dips are so many global tastes, as well as whatever you like to dip, whether it be a graham cracker, whether it be veggie chips, potato chips, corn chips, whatever. Any of those are a great way to celebrate National Chip and Dip Day. Now, it is also Melba Toast Day. Now, did you realize that Melba Toast actually came about in 1897 when a French chef was rather smitten with an opera singer whose last name was Melba from Australia? And so he baked her a crunchy treat. And today you can enjoy them with either a sweet, a jam, preserves, or even a savory topping. However you like to enjoy them, there you go. Now, it is also the start of Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. It's the holy month of fasting, and this year it runs from March 23rd until April 22nd. All right. So what can you expect from Arizona History Happy Hour tonight? Well, we always do a little bit of music history. We have From the Vault, which is something you might drive by and wonder what it is. We also have a little bit of trivia coming up, as well as Little Arizona, which highlights a small town, as well as my cocktail advisor, PJ, has whipped up a great cocktail for you all. So, as well as a special guest. And tonight we're actually taking a look back at one of within the first 6 months of doing a show, we had on a guest that we're highlighting again tonight. So if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, my name is Marshall Shore, and I got here a little over 23 years ago from Brooklyn. I was working in a beautiful Carnegie building and quickly traded that for a library in South Phoenix. Lots of sunshine, but it did have a rich oral tradition of the community. And so it really got me looking at Arizona through stories, which is what I still do. Now, we promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch, and I'm happy to say it was so many tones of beige on the outside, and now it is two-tone, seafoam and cantaloupe. And there's what my kitchen looks like today. All that buttercream yellow tile with matching working appliances that still work like a charm. Now, the moment that I got here, all I could remember, there was no history, but I knew that wasn't true because every time I would go somewhere, I would run across so many amazing people, places, and stories. So as Marshall Shore, also known as the hip historian, I get to play a lot with Arizona history. And so, there's several events coming up. One of the most exciting is actually tomorrow night at the Orpheum Theater. For the first time in 88 years, almost 90 years, is going to be a burlesque show. This is a unique burlesque show because it is Arizona history themed. So I will be telling stories about Arizona history, and they'll be doing dance numbers, classic dance numbers inspired by those stories. So it's a night not to be missed. There are tickets still available. So if you go on to azunzip.com, that will take you to the Orpheum and you can buy a ticket right there. All right. So, I love to hear from you all. And one of the best ways is either in the chat, or you can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, or through my website, because I love to hear from you all. And sometimes you guys have great ideas about upcoming guests. So please let me know if you have anything. All right. So, since, we're going to be talking about neon, I thought, let's talk about something that people confuse sometimes. And it is a little town called Coolidge, Arizona. that is not Casa Grande, but does have Casa Grande in it. And so Coolidge, Arizona is a population of just over 13,000 people, was founded back in 1926. Now, basically, it evolved out of railroads growing and the construction of a dam that really turned that soil into good quality farm and ranch land. Cotton is still a big king in Coolidge, and Coolidge is still a hub of the cotton industry right here in Arizona, one of those 5 C's. But Casa Grande, which in Spanish means big house, this is what remains of a 4-story structure that was abandoned in about 1450. The structure is made of caliche or mud and has managed to survive 7 centuries. Now, one I think is cool that in 1932, it got a shade structure, and that beautiful shade structure was built by Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. His dad was famous for parks, and he built this really cool ramada to protect the Casa Grande ruins. Now, the Casa Grande National Monument itself consists of other buildings, ballpark around there. Basically, it was a community of ancient people that farmed the Gila Valley in the early 13th century. You can also go get the history. You can visit the Coolidge Historical Museum, where they've got all kinds of history. Now, how do you get there? You know, you could drive, but, you know, they do a really cool thing that kind of, I think, is a throwback to a lot of Arizona. Before we had so many highways, a lot of people flew planes. And they do still a regularly scheduled kind of fly-in breakfast at the Coolidge Municipal Airport, which was originally built as an Army airfield during World War II. So you can go find out when you can fly your plane in and have some breakfast. Now we're going to take a chance to highlight the Ignite Sign Museum down in Tucson, one of my favorite must-do stops when I'm there. I love the fact that they were recently featured on the Tucson Guide that people will be picking up to highlight all the fun things to do in Tucson, and indeed, Ignite is one of them. So we're going to take a look back at Arizona History Happy Hour in that very first, the first few months. It was kind of exciting. So first we have a cocktail from PJ, and then the Ignite Sign Museum. I'll see you all in a bit. Enjoy. Wide variety of things in it. He used Midori because in the cocktail world, adding green melon to a drink changes the name of it to electric. And then he also used a concentrated coffee bean infused syrup, basically a strong cold brew syrup, to pay attention and homage to the buzzing sound of neon lights. If you've ever been near one, you'll know just that iconic buzz that they do make. And it's called the slow burn, where the neon really works. And we all know it's a gas in there that's just kind of cooking away. And then there's that smoky whiskey sneaking up on your palate in the finish. He also threw a little bit of apple as an homage to Bill Johnson's Big Apple, which was an iconic sign down on Van Buren and actually is now in the city of Maricopa. So there's all kinds of, you got a little bit of coffee, a little campfire smoke, because he said, you know, it's starting to be fall. It's time to go outside and picnics. And so without any further ado, let's see. All right. So there is my silent bartender. And so here's my cocktail, Slow Burn. All right. And cheers. You know, every cocktail we've had, there's not been a single bad one. Wow. That's really good. All right, so now it's time for a show and tell. So excuse me for a second because I just realized it's still hanging on the wall. So this is original art from Guyette for the Buckhorn mineral baths. And it would have been on a brochure, which I've never found a copy of. But for the Buckhorn, in case any of you have never seen it, it's probably one of them. I mean, for me, it was really what started kind of my passion for neon here in Arizona, was basically seeing that sign and just in the middle of the night driving by and just gobsmacked by its size, its beauty, and then started learning about the history of the place itself. So the sign is still standing. It's famous because it is the largest collection, or was the largest collection. A lot of it has now been donated to ASU. And it also was famous for baseball players. The New York Giants came here and then enjoyed their time at the Buckhorn so much that they brought spring training closer to them so that they could enjoy it. And now I'm happy to say, oh, and we have my silent bartender on screen, and nobody needs to see him now. All right, so through the miracle of modern technology, through phones, cameras, and all kinds of fun things, I am happy to bring on our special guest. Oh, hello, Jude.
Hey, Marshall.
How are you doing tonight?
Good. Glad to be here.
Indeed, as we're going to have some fun. So I know you're with an Ignite Sign Museum. In fact, actually, if we go here. So, which is out of Tucson. And
Yes.
so can you tell us a little about the museum? I mean, I know you do a lot with preservation. I mean, we were just talking about this sign.
Right. This is one that I was contacted through the Arizona Sign Association to help get it down and save it because it was imminent that it was going to be destroyed. So we sent 3 of my guys up to Phoenix for a day, took it down, and it's currently being displayed at the Ignite Sign Art Museum. We picked it up late 2017, early 2018. The museum is a result of, I've been in the sign industry for about 45 years, and I started collecting signs probably back in about 1974, and I just collected whatever I thought was interesting. And about 10, 12 years ago, I got pulled into doing some preservation stuff and restoration stuff on some of the signs down here in Tucson, and that just led to more things that got us pulled into. In Tucson, we've restored 23 signs out in the community, and that doesn't count any of the stuff we have in the museum. The museum opened October of 2018, so we're coming up on 2 years right now.
Indeed. And so, yeah, so you're talking about restoration. I mean, here's another one of those signs that you guys have restored.
Yep, that one just got back together here in the last month.
Ah, nice. So now in all this moment of what we're all kind of experiencing, is the museum open?
Museum's been open. We were closed for 8 weeks. We opened up. Traffic's a little light, but we're getting people every day.
Very good. And then tell me about neon demonstrations.
Yeah, so we've got currently have one gentleman that came in through the museum and was interested in being involved, and we have the ability to bend neon at the museum. So on Saturdays from 1 to 4, he comes and does demos all Saturday afternoon. And we've got another gentleman that was doing it up until the pandemic started, and he's currently back in Wisconsin, but he's coming back. So we'll probably have 2 days a week where we'll have neon bending demos. I don't know when the second day will be, but every Saturday from noon to 4.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't realize you guys were doing that.
Oh, and boy, Chuck, who you're seeing right there, people just love it. He is so engaging. He just pulls people in, and he does just a great demonstration.
Well, I've watched people do it, and it's just fascinating to see how they go about doing it and get the gas in there and make it light up.
It's so few people have ever seen it done that I find almost everybody's intrigued when they actually get a chance to see it, because you're taking rigid glass and heating it up and bending it into shape. And it, I've done a little of it. I can admit I'm not a neon bender, but I've done everything but that.
Very good.
Now, this is
project.
Yeah, this is interesting. What we've been doing, we've done it about 4 times. We had a class last Saturday. What we're doing is you can sign up for the class, and what we have is we have neon that I've salvaged out of signs over the years, and it seemed wrong to throw them away, but I don't have anything to do with all that stuff. So what we do, we come in, we can handle 4 or 5 people on a class. They each pick a piece of neon, or 2, like the one piece there. And then what we do is we provide everything they need to assemble the neon, and then they take it home with them.
Wow.
We're getting really good response. We've got
I was going to say, I'm thinking I need to sign up for that. And I bet I have some friends that would come down with me and we could just do the whole thing amongst ourselves.
Yeah, and it takes us about 2 hours to get 4 to 5 people completely assembled.
Okay. Wow, what fun.
It's we provide, different colored backers. We've got different colored neon and different shapes, lots of letters, lots of eyeball pieces, and they just pick them and we walk them, talk them through it.
Wow. All right. I definitely will be booking one of those, at least for myself, if not a whole passel of folks.
Bring a whole passel of folks. We can use it.
That's always the preference. It's always more fun.
Oh, it is. And we've done things where we've had couples take more than one piece and do it as a couple or just individuals. Either way works.
See, my friend Anita's already in for it. So, all right, at least
sign her up. Come down, do a little neon thing, go out to eat, and head on back. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, exactly. What a great night that would be. So, all right. Well, cheers, everyone. Take another sip of my slow burn. All right. So we always do trivia. In fact, I actually had somebody who reached out to me from Staten Island today that was hoping to join us for a trivia. So hopefully they did make it. I think they may have been scared off by the time difference and the fact that we're at 7 o'clock and they were at 10 o'clock. So hopefully they made it here. Now, what we do with trivia, it's a little bit different than most trivia, is we have 10 questions. And so we'll go through those. They're all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answer, just throw a dart, take a stab at it. And then we'll take a little bit of an Arizona music history break. We'll come back and then we'll go through all those questions. But Jude and I will talk about the answers, mainly him because he knows the answers.
That helps.
So indeed, it always helps knowing the answers.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is you can either keep track of your answers in the chat if you want to do that, or if you have a good old-fashioned pen and paper next to you, you can keep track of it that way. So without any further ado, let's have some trivia. All right. So 2 noble gases are utilized to make neon tubes glow in the sign industry. One is neon. What is the other gas? A, is it helium? B, is it krypton? C, xenon, or D, argon? Which one of those gases are utilized when making neon tubes glow? All right. So question 2. Hires root beer was created and introduced in 1876 by an A botanist, B a pharmacist, C a brewmaster, or D a vintner. So which one of those folks introduced Hires root beer? Did you guys have? Well, we can chat about that later. Never mind. I don't want to get off track. All right, and just for that, cheers. All right, a chemist, George Claude, took neon and assigned to which major event? A, the opening of Warner Brothers Studio in Burbank back in 1918. B, the completion of the Panama Canal in 1914. C, the 1912 Summer Olympics in Stockholm, Sweden. Or D, the Paris Auto Show in 1910. So where did chemist George Claude take neon to a major event? What was that major event? All right. The Mr. Quick hamburger chain began in 1962 in Moline, Illinois. How much did a Mr. Quick hamburger cost when they opened? A, $1, B, 21 cents, C, 15 cents, or D, 25 cents? All right. At halfway point, what type of illumination is utilized to make signs light up? A, neon, B, fluorescent, C, light bulbs, D, LED, or E, all of the above? Which one of those answers are correct for the type, for the different ways you can illuminate a sign? Where did the name Arby's come from? A, the hometown of Arby's Boardman in Ohio. The brothers' names, Leroy and Forrest Raphael. C, creative misspelling of roast beef. Or D, roaming bison in North America. So where did the name Arby's come from? And question 7. The Arizona Brewing Company began in 1933, just after Prohibition. What's the shortened name for that company? A, Seaman Brewery, B, 1947 Brewing Company, C, Two Top Brewing Company, or D, A1 Brewing Company? What was the name of what originally was Arizona Brewing Company? Question 8. We're coming to the home stretch. Back in 1958, which bank in downtown Phoenix had what is believed to be the country's largest rotating neon sign in the world? Was it A, Wells Fargo, B, First National Bank of Arizona, C, Valley National Bank, D, United Bank of Arizona, or E, Arizona Bank? Which one of those banks is believed to have had the largest rotating sign in the world? And question 9. Which trading stamp company began in 1958? A, Double T Stamps, B, King Corn Stamps, C, Unified Stamps, or D, Gold and Blue Stamps? Now there's one more question remaining. So Here we go on our last question. Which oil company used a large rotating ball in their advertising? A, Texaco, B, DX, C, Union 76, or D, Sinclair? Which one of those companies used to use a big rotating ball in their advertising? All right. So while you're getting your thoughts together, changing those last minute answers, because maybe you realize, oh, wait a minute, that's not the right answer. It's this. Here's your chance to change that. So we're going to talk. Actually, you know, whenever I come up with it, I always have like a list of bands and things to talk about, but you never know what you're going to find. And so I think it was actually earlier today or maybe last night, Justin Levine, who is one of the founders of Vintage Phoenix on Facebook, posted about a band called Basic Elements. Now, their first gig was at a talent show at Mountain Shadow High School back in 1958. And they played until 1990. They were kind of in that era, new wave. They played stages all over Phoenix, opening for bands like Gene Loves Jezebel, and even early versions of the Gin Blossoms. Now, back in those days, they were still high school students, so they would play in bars like the Mason Jar, but then be asked to leave because they were all underage. And if caught in the bar could lose their liquor license. Now, what's really cool is tomorrow night, they are actually launching an EP of 5 songs that pretty much sound just like would have back in the day. Go on their Facebook page, which is Basic Element Music, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock and see the band with its original members performing music that they've had kind of on ice since the 80s. So that should be a lot of fun tomorrow. I know I'll be tuning in. I might see some of you. I know I'll see Justin there. All right. So who is ready for some answers? Because now is when we have the fun start. All right. 2 noble gases are utilized to make neon tubes glow in the sign industry. One is neon. What is the other gas? And it's argon. So Jude, how do they make color changes?
Oh, just opened a can of worms. So the gases are argon and neon. Argon glows light blue, and you can use it in clear glass and get light blue. Generally, the argon is used in color tubes, and the tubes can actually be colored and have a phosphorus inside to help create the color, or the glass is actually the color that you want it to be, and it still has a phosphorus inside. So most of the colors are actually made by argon. There's only about 6 or 7 colors, and somebody will correct me, I'm sure, if I'm wrong about that. There's 6 or 7 colors that we use with neon. In neon, you can get that orange color that everybody identifies as neon, which is in clear glass, but we also put neon into green glass to create an orange. We put neon in a blue glass to create a pink. And so it's, and the red into the green glass to get orange just doesn't really comprehend to me. And there's 3 or 4 more beyond that. And then you get into the argon. Argon, there's probably 100 colors out there that you can create with the glass and the gas that you've got in there. This is a little bit of background that a lot of people don't know. In neon, it's just the gas, but when we use argon, we put a minute amount of mercury in. And what the mercury does is make the argon brighter. A lot of people don't realize that's part of the process. And then we mentioned all the other gases. All of those will light, but they're not strong enough and effective enough for signs. So really, argon and neon are the only gases we use in the sign industry.
Oh, wow. So how long will a neon tube glow?
Okay. I have taken neon out of signs that I'm pretty sure by looking at the electrode on them, because of the changes in electrodes, I've had neon that's probably been 60, 70 years old.
Wow.
neon compared to LEDs. LEDs don't have a chance compared to neon. You know, it's almost silly to change a true neon sign out to LEDs because you're trading off something that could last 60, 70 years out with something that's going to maybe last 10 years. So there's a place for LEDs. Neon's just cooler. So why
and the color is, and the intensity of the light is such a warmer feel. I mean, LEDs are so piercing, and just concerning.
That's a lot of it has to do with how it's handled. I mean, we use LEDs too, but the neons has such a great feel. It's just such a classic.
Indeed, it does.
I have a joke.
Oh, you have a joke? All right.
I have a joke. I wanted to tell a joke about neon, but all the best ones are gone.
Oh, I think I need a drink for that joke.
You do.
I deserve one.
I was saving that for you.
Oh, and there we have our argon.
There you have it.
All right.
That looks a little green compared to the way it actually really looks. It's typically a little bluer than that, but it's a pale blue, but that's pretty close.
Well, and my friend Nancy just said she would join us down in Tucson as well. So look at that. We almost have a full crew, and we haven't even picked a date yet. So, all right. So, question 2. Hires root beer was created and introduced back in 1876 by a pharmacist. Why is he making root beer?
We did a whole display on just soda signs, and almost all of them were done by pharmacists. It was interesting. We ran into that. We've got a list of 5 or 6 that were all developed by pharmacists. I guess it gives them something to do to have the soda fountain while you're waiting for them to get your order pulled together when you're in to pick up your drugs.
Well, I know I've always heard the rumor that back in the day, Coca-Cola actually had cocaine and was actually used as a medicine as opposed to, I guess, getting high.
Yeah, they dispute that, but yes.
All right. So question 3. Chemist George Claude took neon to a neon sign to what major event? Oh, the Paris Auto Show back in 1910. So is that one of the reasons why neon has such an affinity for cars?
Probably doesn't hurt as a starting point, but neon just seems like a car thing anyway. And along with that, when the driving time took over in the 40s, it really kicked in. So he had neon in France in 1910. It didn't really hit the States until about 1925 to 1927. But once it caught on big time. He's the guy that George Claude is actually the guy that got it to where neon was actually a practical lighting source. He figured out how to extract neon from liquid oxygen, but he also developed an electrode that wouldn't corrode, which was the key tripping point of getting neon to work. So he was instrumental in getting neon to a point where we could actually do something with it.
Oh, I didn't realize he was not only kind of the first neon guy, but he really was the first neon guy.
He really was the first neon guy. And he actually, I'm coming up with the word, patented it. And so he had a lock on neon initially in the United States. And then eventually they just ran over the top of the patent and everybody and his brother was making neon.
Now, I've heard the rumor that he actually had the first neon sign in the U.S., which was an old Packard sign in L.A.
And that is being disputed, but it's a good story. They say they paid, $25,000 in 1927 to bring.
Right.
There's a couple out in L.A. that has done a lot of research on that, and they pretty much are thinking the first neon signs were probably in New York. Jury's still out. So it's a good story. Yeah, it's a good story. I don't know what they are.
And that does nothing but fan the flames on that New York versus LA.
That's it.
Going around.
That's it.
Oh, so now they're battling it out over who had the first neon.
Yeah, the folks have done a really bunch of deep research, and I got to give them some credit. I think they have a book coming out about that in particular. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I would. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it was New York, just because of
it's closer to France.
Right, exactly. It's closer to France, if nothing else. So, all right. Question 4. The Mr. Quick hamburger chain began in 1962 in Moline, Illinois. How much did a Mr. Quick hamburger cost when they opened? 15 cents?
Pretty crazy.
It wasn't a full-size burger. It wasn't a White Castle.
No. They were confident somehow that they thought hamburgers were going to stay 15 cents forever. That sign has neon on it. It's got incandescent bulbs, and it's porcelain. And there was 2 Mr. Quicks in Tucson back in the 1960s. There was 300 across the country. This particular one was down at South 6th and I-10, and there was there was a second one up near the Tucson Mall. And on the Tucson Mall one, you can make out in the one photo we've got that they decided that 15 cents wasn't a good idea, and they changed that part of the sign to say fish and chips.
I would say, because that's a huge commitment to a price right there.
It was. This sign, was up in 1960. We took it down about 7 or 8 years ago. I have the rest of the sign. It had an 8-foot atom with animated neon on it, and then it had neon and incandescent balls for the Mr. Quick and the hamburgers. They were a tremendous sign. This thing, because it's porcelain, the background and the letters on that still look almost as good as the day they were put up. And
so it also had like a neon atom on it?
Oh yeah. This sign
wow.
This sign had everything. It was 2 big panels, probably 5. This 15-cent thing is about 4 foot in diameter. It had an 8-foot atom.
God. I didn't think it was that big. It looks like
big.
Like a frisbee size.
It weighs a ton. And the light bulbs are animated too. So it actually chases. We just caught it. We caught it when it was all lit. It's a really impressive piece. It's one of the first things you see when you walk into the museum. Oh,
I look forward to coming to see it when I come for my neon class.
So we'll be sure you see it.
All right. Can I get my photo in front of it? Because it sounds pretty spectacular.
2 or 3 photos or more, whatever. Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. What type of illumination you utilize to make signs light up? And it's all of the above. So LEDs, fluorescents, neon, incandescent bulbs.
Yeah, less on the incandescent bulbs these days, but they're still using them. And there's all sorts of new technology in bulbs along with that too. So, these are the ones historically that have been used in the years that I've been in the biz.
So now this looks like almost a game that one could play.
So what this is it's a display we built to actually showcase everything. And there's push buttons for each one of them. As you push them, the bulbs on the one light up, and then there's a information panel that comes up and gives you a little history of that. When you push the next one over, the neon actually lights up individually, and then all comes on, and then goes off and starts to repeat, and you get the write up on it. And that's the same thing with the fluorescents and the LEDs. And then the whole thing has got you don't see it right here, but it's got an acrylic surround. It's got color changing LEDs in it, so it changes colors.
So is it good for people like ADHD that have an attention deficit because it looks like there's so much going on?
It could be. We've got some other stuff we're working on right now. If you have an issue, it's going to make you crazy, because I've got one coming right now. It's got about 10 push buttons on it.
Really?
Yeah. That one will unveil when it gets there. We're another month or so off and getting that display done.
Okay. Well, maybe that's when I'll plan on coming down for neon, so that way it'll be like an unveiling of that.
I may have to have an unveiling, because I've been working on it for about 3 months.
Oh my gosh, how exciting.
It's coming though. It's coming along. I was working on it tonight.
All right. So question 6. Where did the name Arby's come from? It came from the brothers' names?
Yeah, but that doesn't exactly tell you that. What it really means is the R is for Raphael and the B is from brothers. So it's Raphael Brothers or RB.
Oh, I always assumed it was roast beef. It was just RB.
That is the assumption, but that is, according to our research, it's the Raphael Brothers.
Oh, that's so funny. That is RB, but just a different RB.
Right. They had actually considered Big Tex, but they discovered that there was a guy in Ohio that already had that. So this RB sign we have, this is one in our backyard. It's 17 feet tall. And when we took it down, because they were going to tear down the building and build a Longhorn Steakhouse, we took it apart. And the owners didn't want it destroyed. And I said, well, I'll see what I can do. It was before we were going to open the museum. And I contacted the American Sign Museum in Cincinnati about it, just to see if they were interested. And I said, I've got a 17-foot Arby's. And his comment to me was, I didn't think they made them that small. He's got two 24-footers.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said too.
Even just negotiating those, trying to get them from one place to another would be a nightmare.
These things split. This one split in half right below the word roast. So it's about 8 foot in top section.
Oh, okay.
So when we took it down, we pulled the top off and then we set it on a trailer, and then we pulled the second half off and set it on the trailer and then transported over, and it sat in my yard for 7 or 8 years. And then when we finally got it ready to go and brought it over to the museum and we put it together, and I was working right there next to it, and I stepped back and went, oh crap, that thing's big. It's pretty amazing. It's got over 300 light bulbs on it, and they're animated, so they chase. And then this whole sign is actually lit with neon. It's got clear red, it's got orange, and it's got pink on it. But it's all neon gas, even though it's 3 different colors.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't have a picture of the animator that runs the light bulbs, but it's fascinating. When you come down, I'll be sure you get a look at that.
Well, I imagine to run that many light bulbs and get them to chase and flash must be quite.
It's a fascinating flasher. They don't make it anymore, but it's got 4, because it lights every 4th bulb in sequence, so it looks like it's chasing all the way around the sign.
Okay.
And down on the ground, when you're standing like 15 feet away, it's almost hypnotic.
Oh, I would definitely believe that, because it just kind of gets them going and going and going.
And when you're that close to it, because normally you're not that close to those things.
Right. I mean, that was the thing with the diving lady was actually being up close to her. And there were parts of her that were like 17 feet tall as well. And when they're up on that big pole, they don't look nearly that large until you're right there.
Bring them down on the ground and they get a lot bigger.
Exactly. All right. So question 7, Arizona Brewery Company was also known as A1, which is an iconic brand. Actually, they released, there was a brewery out of Tucson that actually for a few years, I think, was actually reproducing an A, or at least was using the name A1.
They were doing the recipe. I think it was, it'll come to me later. If I remember it, I'll tell you.
I know. It's like there's like a monkey involved in the logo.
Nimbus.
Yes, Nimbus. Okay.
So have we talked about the mesh? No, the rotating sign. I got a story to tell you about the rotating sign when we get there.
Oh, good, because I can add some information to it there as well. So, okay, we're not there yet. No, I mean, I love that you still every once in a while will wind up seeing like an A1 sign still attached to a bar.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing they're still out there. These signs were actually manufactured in Phoenix.
Oh, I didn't realize they were made here. Who made them?
Yeah. Let me. I may have to get that. I knew it, but I'm not.
No, I mean, there were only a handful of sign makers, so I was just wondering.
This outfit must have been big, and this must have been a bread and butter job because they made a lot of them. I did some research for a project in Tucson down in the barrio, and in one of the photos I found in one block, there was 3 of these sticking out from the wall, 3 different bars. Have Have we touched on the rotating sign? We did.
Nope, we've not gotten there yet. I think.
Okay, then I'll sit on
the
this.
Next question. Oh, indeed, and there is the rotating sign. So back in 1958, there was a really large sign put up that was said to be the largest rotating sign in the world, and that was right downtown at Valley National Bank, which is now a hotel, which is a Hilton Garden Inn.
So the folks that manufactured the sign, the Valley National Bank sign that was on the roof, were the same people that manufactured the A1 beer signs.
Oh.
So that was, the Valley was a custom sign. They didn't produce hundreds of rotating signs.
No, they didn't. I mean, for a number of years, there was a rumor floating around that sign may be in someone's barn. And I think we've since given that up.
It's so big. It is so big. I don't know how they would, and I don't know how they probably had to take it down in sections anyway, because they almost.
I'm assuming they did. I've seen one photo that is an industry magazine, and it highlights the rotating sign, and you see these guys standing there, and the letters are like 6 foot tall.
Oh yeah. I think I've got that same picture. It was from the Signs of the Times.
Yes, exactly. Signs of the Times. Yeah. And so that was also a Glenn Guyette sign, who designed like Mr. Lucky's, My Florist, which is my backdrop tonight. So yeah. So that was one of his pieces as well. And we don't really know what happened to it, sadly.
I'm guessing it probably got trashed, which is a shame. So
I completely agree.
The sign company that made the Valley and actually did the A1 was Myers and Lieber Neon Sign.
Oh, okay, it was Myers and Lieber. Okay, because Glenn actually worked for them when he first got here. So yeah, that makes sense. They were a huge deal.
They must have been big, but they're gone now. I'm sure. I'd never heard of them until I.
So they were I think out in Mesa.
That sounds right.
And I know Glenn then broke off and went on his own. I think Paul Millett, who did like the Diving Lady.
Yeah. Spun off a lot of different sign companies probably from them when they closed.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So
that happens. Okay.
Which trading stamp company began in 1958? King Corn. I've never heard of King Corn stamps.
I hadn't either. We found this sign up in Globe, and it's a vacuum formed plastic face, and I'm now collecting plastic face signs I'd stayed away from. I have never seen those colors together on anything.
But what's interesting is the K's are the same color, but the N's are different colors.
What the heck? I don't know. It would have been confusing to switch them. It's hard to say. It's got a black opaque background, lit with fluorescence. When we picked the sign up, I don't know how old it really was, but it had to be 1960s probably. We put new lamps in it, and it lit.
And are those colors would definitely be memorable.
Yeah, memorable. They were out of Chicago, and trading stamps has got a whole history. It ended up with lawsuits on some of that stuff. They had kind of a checkered past, and then when grocery stores finally decided to just go for discounts and forget the gifts and the things you could buy, like green stamps and gold money. And so the whole stamp thing fell in. But these guys prospered for quite a while until that period of time when trading stamps fell off.
All right, we have one question left, but I need a cocktail first. Cheers. All right. And which oil company used a large rotating ball in their advertising? Union 76. Now, was that its first name?
It goes back. I got to consult my wife or my consultant here. What was the background? She did all the research on that.
Wasn't there also like Phillips 66?
Oh, there was Phillips 66. There was a. Do we have it here? I do have it here. Let me give you the recap I've got. Union Oil introduced introduced 76 gasoline in 1932. Its name came from the 1776 United States Declaration of Independence. It was also the octane rating of the gasoline. The ball was developed in 1962, and they presented it or displayed it at the Seattle World's Fair. The guy that designed it came up with the design and the concept, and he was afraid they weren't going to go for it because it cost $50,000 to design the ball and make the first one.
Wow.
They put them on. There was at one point, there was 3,200 of these balls in the United States. And as they started to come down, there actually was some pushback from them, especially in California. There was a group that was organized, and I'm going to say this with a straight face, that calls themselves Save Our Balls.
Well, that's not a bad organization from what I hear.
No, they did good. We've got one I just saw last weekend that the Museum of Neon Art has a 76 ball too. So there's a few of them around.
How big were these things?
Oh, you have no point of reference. That's 7 foot in diameter, and ours still rotates.
Oh my gosh, that was 7 foot. I remember seeing them as a kid, and they look like
they were like that big. That's it. No, they are big. We saw one in San Francisco that I'm pretty sure was only about 4 foot in diameter, but yeah, it's 7 foot in diameter. We light it with 2 LED bulbs.
Wow.
And it's crazy that it lights that well. There's very little structure in there. There's a single pole up the middle. The faces are all out of I'm pretty sure it's polycarbonate, and it's 2 halves that are bolted together. And then it's got a rotator on it that makes it go. The only thing we had to do to get that thing moving was we had to lube the motor, put on a new belt, put in 2 new bulbs, and it took off and worked.
Wow. That's incredible.
I didn't
realize they were that big.
They are big. We've got a KFC bucket that's 7 foot tall.
Oh, you have that? Wait a minute. So, because my logo is actually a knockoff of a '60s KFC bucket.
Ours is the bucket, but our graphic is a little newer than that. It's not the old style kernel; it's the newer one.
Okay, still, but that size of a bucket. Oh my. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's impressive. When you walk into the warehouse part of the museum, you walk right into it.
And then Debbie talks about how there is a bucket over at 43rd Avenue in Dunlap, but it's been spray painted black.
Oh, there's a lot of them. But you know what?
That is
if it ever got saved, because the graphics are on the second surface, the inside of the acrylic, you could probably strip that back off again if they ever wanted to. If it ever got taken down. And you wanted to save the graphic.
Samantha is requesting to talk about the Tiki Motel sign.
In Tucson, or is there one?
I'm wondering which Tiki Motel she's talking about. So I don't know if it's a Tucson story, because I have a story here, but I don't know. But we haven't saved anything yet.
I don't know the Phoenix one. We've got a small Tiki Motel here in Tucson on the old Miracle Mile, which is actually called Oracle now. I've done miniatures of it. I make a 3 foot tall. Know a lot of history about it. It's had various changes to the signs over the years, but it's still kind of a classic. It's got a tiki torch, and it's got an appropriate letter style, and it's got the shield backgrounds on it. But I don't know if that's the one she's asking about.
No, yeah, she said definitely Tucson.
Tucson.
So here we had the Kon-Tiki, which was a Haver building, and it was at 24th Street in Van Buren.
Okay.
And it was famous for this. It was basically a plastic sign with these really huge faces. And so I talked to some guys years ago, actually during Centennial, that talked about how they shimmied up the poles when the building was being demolished and worked the faces until they fell off in the back of a truck and they drove off.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then another friend reached out to me about a year ago saying that she's been chatting with a family that are a bunch of pickers, and they have a huge warehouse full of stuff, And in there, they claim to have the faces off the Kon-Tiki.
They may.
So it's very likely that they do. So, but we've not been able to get in there and actually see them. So that's the hope, is that we can actually at some point get in and see them. Oh, and it's not a bucket over on the west side. It's one of the 76 balls.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a few still floating around out there. But we had one that got painted out white, and it was coming down. And somebody asked, did I already have it? I didn't have one at that point, but I didn't have the money. Somebody else wanted, and they didn't want to pay the money to have us take it down. And I think the thing got cut up, thrown away. And I know there was another KFC bucket that got cut up before we got to it.
Oh no.
Yeah. But how many KFC buckets do you need? I just don't need that many.
That's true.
I don't need, but it's a shame to let them get away. But, they're big. And that's one of the biggest problems with the things is, what do you do with them unless you've got a boneyard to keep them in?
Although I would be tempted to put a KFC bucket in my backyard. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but
next one that shows up. Hey, I got a question for your followers. If anybody knows, if I can ask.
Of course.
On the Mo Allen sign that you showed, we have yet to be able to determine if anybody knows any of the neon colors on that one.
Oh, that's a good question.
Never seen a photo. We ask anybody that comes in that knows it if they remember anything or if they've ever had a photo, and have yet to even get a hint. And it had a lot of color. I think it had a lot of color because it was triple stroke neon on the Mo Allens. So it probably was one color on the outside and a center color in the middle. And nothing. We can't find a thing on it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I will take the photo that either you sent me or the one I have of you guys taking it down, and also throw that out to Arizona Vintage Sign Coalition to see if anybody has a clue or a memory of what it could have been.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to do. I mean, that would help motivate trying to do some of the neon and get it back and lit if we could even know what to do, because I don't want to go through the exercise and have somebody come up and go, oh, that's all wrong.
Right. Oh, no, that's like the worst thing ever. What I can also do is I'll throw it out to Vintage Phoenix, because the folks there are so great.
Well, that would be good.
It's like, oh, I remember this. And sometimes they'll have debates about, well, what it was. And then like, oh, yeah, oh, no, you're right. It was that. So
somebody's got to have an inkling, because somebody lived near that sign for years before the
neon. And thought every day, every night they would come home, there it was, shining away for them.
Yeah. Well, if anybody comes up with anything, we could sure use that.
No, I am happy to try and see if we can find that out. So, all right. So, I mean, we've talked about the Ignite Sign Museum. So when are you open? When can people come down and visit?
Our regular hours are Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 4.
All right.
And then we rent the space out for events. So it's open for events in other hours. And right now it's not a real good event time, but we will eventually do events again.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I feel as well. Eventually we'll be doing events and all kinds of fun stuff. We're just not there yet.
No, not yet, but we're getting close. So, but yeah, come on by. We'd love to see you.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, and I'll have a car full, it sounds like.
Good.
So, well, Jude, I want to, again, thank you so much for coming on and talking about neon. I mean, I love the fact that Arizona is such a hotbed of like neon preservation.
Oh, we've done good.
I mean, Tucson with the whole, like the Neon Pueblo, you've got the sign collection there in Mesa and Casa Grande.
Right. Don't forget Casa Grande. They deserve.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the fact that they were able to get that up and running in a short period of time. And then also Kingman is doing some really great stuff as well.
That's what I've been hearing. I haven't seen what they're up to, but I've been hearing there's some action up there, and that's great because they've got some good stuff over there.
Oh, they've got some amazing signs.
Yeah, no, they do. We went through there here a couple of years ago, and it was like, oh yeah, they need to save what they can before they lose it, because as you well know, stuff disappears way fast, and once it's gone, you forget all about it, and it's
right, and nobody thinks about it. So yeah, so that's important to get those.
Oh yeah, we've picked up a couple of signs in the last 6 months that were just came out of the woodwork. You know, somebody had them in a yard and they were all just rusted and the neon's all gone. And we've got one just about ready to relight that used to be downtown Tucson in the early 80s. And we've got another one that we're just holding it. It's a great Mexican restaurant sign. And it's been stored in my backyard, and I was afraid it was going to get broke. So we brought it over to the museum, and we're just going to hold it over there and get it lit and back lighting again too. You know, stuff's out there, you know, but if you let it get too far away, it ends up just getting trashed.
Right. And then somebody mentioned the Las Vegas Neon Museum, which is incredible. They
are on a whole different level than all the rest of the museums in the country. You know, their scale is so big. They get 1 million visitors a year through there when things are good.
Right. Well, and also was the fact that it's like you had one company, and so all those signs were leased to the casino. So when they went to go down, they went back to the company.
Yeah, but geez, keeping all that stuff, what a collection of stuff. That's crazy.
Right. I mean, unlike here, that so often even the artwork is gone because everything went to the original company who paid for it, and the artist kept nothing.
That's oftentimes what the case is. I mean, there's some people out in this part of the country that do some leasing, but for the most part, you buy the sign and you keep it maintained, and when they quit maintaining and you go out of business, it just gets torn down and thrown away.
Right. So I mean, Las Vegas was really lucky that it all happened that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So Jude, thank you so much for coming on and just sharing about the museum, about the great work you're doing, going around preserving all these signs, and about the amazing space you have. I mean, I'm looking so forward to coming down probably early November.
That's a good time to come. Nice temp.
Exactly. The temps will be really good. So
now give us a heads up when you're coming, and we'll make sure we give you the personal tour.
All right. Looking forward to that.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you very much. I had fun.
Very good. All right, Jude. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Take care.
You too.
All right.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's so much fun taking a look back and seeing how much change has happened. Things look so much better now. You know, but oh my gosh, I love the fact that Jude and the folks down there at the Ignite Sign Museum have just been doing more and more. And so really helping preserve that Arizona history and collecting more signs, redoing them. And so, you know, I always love to ask people, how did you do? Because, you know, it's not so well as how you did on any of the trivia. It's more the stories. I mean, just the fact that those 76 globes were that big. Who knew? You know, I always forget. And, you know, and they've done Jude and his team have done such a great job of gathering client signs and saving them across the state. So, Jude, thank you so much. Give you another round of applause for the museum as well as the incredible preservation work that you do down there. And so this is why I say, you know, you should click on share if you're watching on Facebook, because, oh my gosh, such amazing Arizona history that we're sharing and getting a chance to talk about. So, all right. So something else as we talk about from the vault, things that you might go by. So we're going to talk a little bit about General John C. Greenway. So we know that there was the day proclaimed for him to help honor him. But, you know, he also had a statue created in his likeness from Gutzon Blorgum, the same artist who did Mount Rushmore, those iconic heads. And so currently you can see these statues down at the Arizona History Museum, as well as downtown Phoenix at the Polly Rosenbaum building near the Capitol. Now, John C. Greenway was a copper mining executive, was a friend of Theodore Roosevelt's, and even served as one of the Rough Riders, as well as during World War I, earned lots of medals. And so he was also involved with the formation of the American Legion, and hence that's why Post 1 here in Arizona is named the Luke Greenway post in honor of him. And it's actually one of the earliest posts in the country, right down on 7th Avenue in Grand. And it's a really cool space. So, all right. So there you go. If you're watching on Facebook, be sure and share. I mean, it was so funny looking at that because, you know, it's so funny to see the changes that we've made in 2.5 years of doing this. And next week, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have Dan Guerrero coming on and talking about him, his father, Lalo Guerrero. So you won't want to miss that. So that is Thursday, 7 o'clock. You got to check it out. We'll be right here. I always want to give a shout out and say thank you. Please share your stories, your questions, your suggestions, comments. Love to hear from you. I do want to give a shout out to Chris and Cole for that intro video and PJ for so many amazing beverages that have come across my tongue. All right. And so because just yesterday was National Puppet Day, we are going to hear from probably one of the most famous, I would say, puppeteers in all of Arizona's past. And it is Vonda K. Van Dyke, Miss Arizona, as well as Miss USA. Good night, all.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's have a little compromise. What do you mean? Well, we'll sing a duet. You think you can do that? Look, I mean, you sing a line, and then I'll sing a line. I didn't mean that we both sang together. Yeah, I didn't think you were that good. All right, look, remember, wherever we go and whatever we do, we're going to have to go through it together. Where